Tired of feeling tired? Done with diet culture? Overwhelmed by conflicting nutrition and fitness messages? Then join us, your hosts of the Nutrition Revolution podcast, as we take a deep dive into all things women's fitness and nutrition. I'm Kimberly.
And I'm Tabitha. And together we are debunking diet culture myths and giving you the tools you need to finally see the results you're looking for. It's time to revolutionize your nutrition and training.
Welcome back to another episode. I feel like I've gotten this question a lot recently about how to help your kids gain weight. Or to help anyone gain weight, because this episode can be used for kids, for adults, it doesn't matter.
I think it's so awesome how many moms I have reaching out to me concerned about their kids and wanting to improve the quality of their kid's diet and help their kid be as healthy and strong and reach their potential through the power of food and nutrition. I think it's like just a great sign that our culture, our country, it's shifting.
People are paying attention
back to its roots, that like food is fuel and food can be healing and therapeutic. And it really is, it's freaking important, guys.
Yeah.
If nothing else, if you've been following all of our episodes, like what you eat, in my opinion, and what you don't eat are like the most important thing you can do for your body and your health. And then the next thing is like what you do activity-wise.
How you move. Yeah. I think we've definitely been that generation that has seen what happens when you're not eating well and moving well.
We've seen what happens to baby boomers. That's like all the high processed stuff, the sedentary lifestyles. Yeah. And they're suffering now. Yeah.
And so I think our generation is like, we don't want to not be able to get off the toilet when we're 75, or we don't want to not be able to move and run around and play. Like,
don't want to be scared of falling and breaking my hip all the time and having osteoporosis and type 2 diabetes and hypertension, all the things.
And I think people are learning now that it starts as the parent. Like it's our responsibility. You know, I've had this hard conversation with a lot of my clients. They're like, I don't know, they're lazy, they're tired, they don't want to move, they don't want to go play, they don't want to join sports, they don't sleep well. And it's that hard conversation of like, this is a you thing. Like you grocery shop, you feed them, you model for them. And so if you're not eating well, you're not modeling well, your kids aren't going to either. So you have to start changing. And then also like you're the parent, you're going to have that hard no.
You're going to have to say no. You're going to have to make choices. Yeah, you are. But that's also super empowering. The good news is you are the boss, the president, the CEO, the big man, big woman in charge of your home and your family. And that is so empowering. Right. And that means that you can have the greatest impact. But you have to be willing to make some of the changes yourself. And not just talk the talk and tell your kid, oh, you should eat healthy, or you should eat this and this, while you or yourself are not.
Right.
You got to walk the walk.
Yeah. And just because your kid wants gummies every day for breakfast doesn't mean that you should give them to them. So, you know, you have to include your kids on the conversations. You have to include them in the shopping, include them in choices, and be honest with them and open and say, like, here's why we're not having gummies every day. Like, here's why we're not eating ice cream for breakfast or ice cream for dinner or whatever all the time. Let them know, like, I want you to be healthy. I listened to this podcast. I don't even know who it was, but he was talking about our job as parents. Our number one job is to keep our kids safe. And that's your responsibility. And your kids aren't going to like you when you tell them, no, you can't have a cell phone in your room as a 10-year-old because I don't know what you're looking at. They're going to be mad at you, but it's your job to keep them safe.
Yep.
It's the same thing with food and movement. Like,
it's your job to give them boundaries. Yeah. It's your job to tell them no.
Right.
They don't get everything they want. That's not life. Who have we ever known that gets everything they want and gets to do everything they want? No one.
Yeah.
Right? Like, your kid is not suffering either if they can't have Apple Jacks or a Pop-Tart for their meal. Your kid is not suffering if they can't sleep with their phone in their bedroom overnight. Your kid is not suffering if you say, I don't want to listen to this kind of music in the car. Yeah. You need to find the clean stuff. I'm not saying your kid's not going to go listen to whatever when they're not with you, but at least they know the expectation from you, and they've set the boundary. And like the good old book tells us, train a child up in the way they should go, and when they are old, they will not depart from it, right? So you're going to have pushback. And I will say, I'm getting on a soapbox right now.
Yeah, go for it. I'm like, yes.
I am in a I'm in my teenage mom. Okay, no, I am not a teenage mother. I am in a mom of teens.
Yes, era.
I am in a mom of teenagers era. My kids are 13 and 15.
Yeah.
I don't really have control over them. Let me clarify that. Yes, there are rules and boundaries and expectations in our home that they have to adhere to. Period. Full stop. My husband and I are one in purpose.
Yeah.
Okay. But really, when they're not in my home, which is becoming more and more as they have friends and activities and they're wanting this teenager independence, you know, they're going to do what they're going to do. So what I'm relying on is the role model that my husband and I have set and the way that we have raised them to help them make better choices.
Yeah, it's their roots and foundation.
Yes. Now, I will also say to that point, because as we go through this discussion of like helping your child be healthier and stronger through the power of nutrition, some of our moms listening might be like, okay, great, my kid's not 6, right? Like I'm not in that, like my kid's 16 and is driving and can go get themselves food wherever they want, you know, without me having kind of any input. And that's true. That's something you're going to deal with. And guess what?
Yeah.
My daughter loves drinking an Alani drink every now and then, and probably drinks them more when she goes to some of her friends' house that they have them. And I have just told her, I don't drink Alanis, and this is why I don't drink Alanis.
I was going to say, for those older kids, that's your job now, is the education part. Have them listen to the podcast. Have them read. You know, if you read something about why they shouldn't be doing something, include them in on that and just inform them. It doesn't mean that you're going to control them or make them do it.
Right.
Your job is to keep them safe, inform them, and educate.
Exactly. And she's going to make her own choices. And guess what? She's going to survive the Alanis.
Yeah. She
really is. And she's going to have to decide for herself. But I will tell you, in my home, I'm not buying the Alanis.
Right.
I'm not keeping them in my fridge. So
You're
if
not
she's
enabling
getting
the
them,
habit.
you know what I mean? Like I can't control that. I can't stop that. I'm not going to lose my peace over that. I'm going to say, this is why I don't buy them. This is why I don't drink them. This is why your dad doesn't drink them.
Yeah.
This is why I don't think that you should. And I know she's listening. Right. But, you know, she's also 15.
I was going to say kids.
And they're going to learn. And I think back to like all the Pop-Tarts I ate.
Yeah, like, he survived.
And I have survived and I have course corrected. And I, you know, feel like I'm healthier now pushing 40 than 25.
Yeah.
So for the moms that are in that same season as me, of where you have teenagers or even young adults and you're like, okay, well, crap, I missed like that window of when they were tiny and knowing all this information. Like I feel you, I hear you, I see you, I am you. To a big extent, it's going to be okay. But you have to start with yourself.
I say when you can start with yourself, and especially if you go and I would say the biggest changes that your kids are going to see is if you currently have like some health stuff that you're dealing with or have some goals that you want to succeed with, start doing them on your own. When your kids start to see you getting healthier, getting stronger, getting fitter, you know, whatever that, reaching your goals, they're going to be like, oh, maybe she was right about those things. You know, they're going to be like, all right, let's try it together. Well,
let's start with the start of the day. So, okay, so your kid is maybe underweight, or they're playing sports and they just don't seem to have the energy. Maybe they're growing in height, but like their muscles aren't growing. They seem like they're maybe frail.
Yeah. Growth spurts are happening right now.
Yeah. Smaller than a lot of their peers are. And maybe you're just concerned about their overall like health and well-being and what you can do with nutrition. First, we need to look at what are they eating each meal.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Let's start with breakfast.
That's always the first thing. First of all, you can't change your kids' diet and health if you don't know what they're eating.
Yep.
And you don't know how they're moving. So you need to know, what are they eating at school? What are they eating at home? What are you buying for them?
And are they not eating at school?
Or are they not eating?
I can't tell you how many clients I've worked with that their kids like, yeah, my kid doesn't eat lunch. And I'm like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Like, what?
They don't eat at school because...
And then their kid, though, is like 5 o'clock comes and they have a headache.
Yeah.
And they're not feeling good because they've also just finished practice. And I'm like, yeah, it's because your kid's starving.
It's absolutely eye-opening how many kids go to school and don't eat all day.
Or they've had a Pop-Tart to start their day.
Yeah.
Listen, and we're not here to mom shame. We're not here to shame. We get it. Life is busy.
Well, you can't control your kids. You know, at school, you can't make them eat.
I know at school there are a lot of options of eating like junk food. My son calls it the cafeteria black market, where he can get his cosmic brownies.
Just trade whatever he
and I can't control that, but you know what I can at home? Start him off with a good solid breakfast. And at least the foundation is there. If your kid is skipping breakfast, or your kid is grabbing a Pop-Tart or a Little Bites muffin, blueberry muffins, or even some of the teenagers where like the parents that will take them to school will like do a Starbucks run and they're getting like a grande latte and then that's it. You got to stop that.
Coffee is not breakfast at any age.
Thank you. Louder for those in the back. Coffee is not breakfast at any age. And your teenager doesn't need all that caffeine either. Yeah. They need a good night's sleep and they need good whole food, solid nutrition.
Yep.
Right? So you got to make breakfast a priority.
Yeah.
And we've done podcast episodes on like quick, easier grab and go breakfast things. It's going to take a little bit of effort.
It does. It takes effort. It takes including them.
It does, period. It takes effort. Look, you want to be a teacher, you're going to have to go to school for 4 years and get your degree and your teaching certificate. You want to be an HVAC tech, you got to go to school and do your HVAC training, right? Yeah. Anything that you want to do and want to have requires effort. Same thing with your nutrition. If you want your kids to eat better, you're going to have to take the bull by the horns.
Yeah, you have to put in some work.
Put in some work and make it a priority.
Yeah, so I would say definitely first...
I feel like I'm being really aggressive. I'm sorry, listeners.
But it's true. I mean, but we want you to be healthy. We want your kids to be healthy. Yeah.
But you don't eat breakfast yourself.
Yeah.
You don't want to, I don't have time in the morning.
My favorite is they don't eat their veggies. What veggies do you like? Oh, I don't like veggies. Then your kid's not going to eat veggies. Yeah. So so let's talk about like specifically gaining weight. If you want your kid to gain weight, you're seeing that they're thin,
super underweight,
can't lift,
small,
heavy, like they just look like everything is making them fatigued. First, look at what they're eating. I wouldn't put them on a calorie tracker as a little kid. That's a lot.
Yeah.
But I would definitely mentally
meal track. I would say do meal tracking.
Yep. I would definitely mentally see like, are they having a protein? Are they having some carbs? And are they having some fats 3 to 4 times a day?
Yep.
Maybe 5 times a day for a kid. Or are they walking around all day just grabbing like
a handful of
muffins
goldfish
here and some pretzels and some like just snacking all day long,
a pack of
and not really eating
snacks.
A meal.
And then it's like, oh no, I'm not hungry. Well, yeah, because you just came home and had fruit snack, a bag of chips, and some Swiss cake rolls.
Yeah, not hungry, and now you feel super tired, so you're not going to move your body for the rest of the day.
And you have a headache.
Yeah, so take inventory of what you're buying in your own home, then what they're actually eating. And you can even ask them like, hey, what did you eat at school today? Or, hey, just kind of pay attention for me what you ate at school today, and have them just report to you. And then, so start with a great breakfast, get them some good proteins in the beginning of the day, something that's going to help their brain function and focus and learn. And then lunch, another good protein with some veggies and some fiber. And then dinner, the same thing, protein, fiber, veggies.
Make sure your snacks are balanced. A pack of goldfish in the car on the way to practice is not a balanced snack. Right. If your kid loves the goldfish,
add a meat stick with it.
Add meat stick, string cheese,
or protein
nut
shake
butter,
if you have to.
apple slices, a protein shake if you have to. Maybe like an RX bar or something.
I love the RX bar. Came out with these RX oats and like peanut butter bars. Oh, it's like an orange packet.
Okay.
It's my new favorite.
Or a Perfect Bar. They make like the mini Perfect Bars. Add to nutrition by addition. What can I add to this to give my child the fuel they need? And you have to understand that like so many parents are like, oh, well, they're not going to starve. Actually, the kids will just not eat.
Yeah.
Like they're not eating because they're just like, oh, I'm never that hungry. Their body is adjusting.
And then their hormone breakdown, it's not telling you that they're hungry anymore.
They have appetite dysregulations where they don't feel the normal hunger patterns. Like,
they've suppressed it all.
That's always like, if your child is constantly waking up and telling you like, I'm not hungry, and throughout the day, like they're not regularly hungry, that's a problem.
Yeah.
That is a sign of dysfunction
and
dysregulation. How do I course correct? Start feeding them. Start getting something in them. You're going to start small. If your kid's been a breakfast skipper for most of their childhood, they're not going to start off eating 3 eggs, 2 pancakes, a banana, and berries, right? Start small. Talk to them about the importance of fueling their body, of how food is fuel. It's going to help them feel better. Do it in very like food positive ways. Model it yourself.
Yeah.
And then you may, depending on the age of your child, you may need to get up 10 minutes earlier to prep something. That's all you need. And you can get something nutrient dense. A Greek yogurt with berries and granola takes no time.
If you're going to stop at Starbucks, get those protein boxes.
And the egg bites.
The hard-boiled eggs or the egg bites.
Yes. Get something else in them.
I think and this is gonna soapboxy probably, I think that we've seen in this generation is that families don't sit down and eat meals together anymore.
Yeah.
So like when I have these conversations with clients and I'm like, oh, what do they eat? And they're like, well, I don't know. And I'm like, well, what do you guys eat for dinner? Oh, well, we grab this on the run, or we do this, or like, oh, he eats dinner while I'm wrapping up work or whatever. And I'm like, sit down and eat a meal at a table together. Like, just sit down.
It doesn't have to be dinner either. It could be your breakfast. Meal. It could be your lunch. It could
sit
be
down
any meal.
And enjoy a meal together. Because one, they're not going to see how you eat if they never see you eat. Like you've got to sit down and start enjoying some meals together too, to model for them and, cook together in the kitchen, like bring back that kind of lifestyle that we used to have where you just slow down a little bit and focus on that. So if you really are concerned about gaining weight or having your kids be healthier, that's one of the greatest ways to do it, is slow down and sit and eat together. Learn what foods they enjoy, learn what foods they want you to make for them, learn what foods they will eat a bunch of if you put it in front of them. And I think one of the greatest ways to do that is sit down and have dinner together or meals together.
Yeah. When my kids were younger, my son, he's still kind of picky. He's getting better. He is getting better, but he was like way pickier as a younger child. And I just, the few fruits and veggies that he would eat and things, like I just always had so much of those that like we wouldn't run out. Yeah. He could just eat his little heart out, eat to his heart's content of the little cuties and grapes and, whatever else.
I used to make up like charcuterie boards. And to this day, that's like how my kids eat lunch. They're like, they put everything on a little charcuterie board of like apples and some ham and so whatever it is.
Yeah. And if your kid is older and they're an athlete and they're regularly going to sports practices or like strength and conditioning training for their sport, and your kid is not getting fueled before and after, we got to start doing that. Mm-hmm. You cannot send your kid to practice on an empty stomach if they haven't eaten within a couple hours. I don't even care. Like make them a glass of chocolate milk.
Yeah.
And have them drink that on their way. I've actually done that so many times. Grabbed like one of my blender bottles, make up a chocolate milk for my kid because they love it, and then I grab like a granola bar or something else or banana, and like, here you go.
Yeah, my kids are doing swim team right now, and so this morning I was like, you need to have something before we go, and it's tough because it's 6:15 in the morning that they're there in the pool.
Wow.
And so I'm like, you got to have something. So
that's dedication.
We went grocery shopping, and I was like, I want you guys to pick out something that you will eat
in the morning
before swim that's not going to hurt your stomach. So they picked out like protein shakes and these like, I don't know, eggs and sausage things that they wanted, and ate that before they worked out. And then after they worked out, they had granola bars ready to go, a granola bar and a banana, so that they could devour that before after their workout. Because one, they're starving now because they just burned all these calories. But two, it's going to help with performance. It's going to help them to increase muscle mass and
supports their recovery. Mm-hmm. So that way they're less likely to get sick, less likely to be injured, less likely to experience burnout, less likely to not reach their growth potential, right? Like I hear a lot of people worry about, more so with their sons, about like the growth potential of their sons. And I'm like, they're talking underweight. About like, should we do creatine? Should we do this? Should we do that? I'm like, why don't we start with making sure they're eating 3 square meals a day? Yes. And that when they get home from practice, if they've already had dinner, they're having a snack. Yeah. No biohacking if they're not eating 3 protein meals a day. No, you don't actually need to put them on all these different supplements. You need to harness the power of real food and solid nutrition, adequate nutrition to best support them. And that's sustainable. Right. And that's the best way. Yeah. So you got to take that deep, hard look at yourself. What kind of example are you setting when it comes to meals and foods? What kind of food environment have you created in your home? And then what actionable steps do you need to take to improve your own habits and your food environment? Because that is going to be the biggest thing that shapes your child's food environment and relationship with food and mindset around food. Yeah, they'll do what they see. And then let's say you are doing everything right and your kid still is having, is underweight or having some issues or things that you're concerned about. That's when you can really kind of look and see, what are they eating, if I need to increase. So like some of these people who've reached out, it's like their kids can't lift weights or they're, not gaining muscle mass. You can start with doing some body weight work in the gym, as long as they're increasing their protein and getting in the fiber that they need.
and start with body weight. Start doing some fun family challenges or something like, hey, can you do 30 push-ups every day? And then let's track and see how many push-ups you can do by the end of the summer.
Who can get 10 squats in fastest? Yeah, like something.
Make it something fun where they're getting into the gym. And, you know, I even told someone this week, your workouts are going to be just like brushing your teeth. You've got to move your body every day. And we need to be teaching that to our kids, that going to the gym isn't just because you want this like aesthetic look. Like it's actually part of a healthy lifestyle. If you don't want to fall and break a hip at any age, like these kids who are underweight, they're, you know, at risk for that kind of stuff just as an older person is. So you want to make sure that like they do have a healthy weight, a healthy BMI, healthy muscle mass, you know, proportions for themselves. Like you don't want them to fall and injure themselves. And so, you know, getting into the gym and working out as a family, or just giving them ideas of what they can do to work out. You know, maybe you don't want them to start lifting right away, but they've got to start doing something. So body weight, I think, is really good. I think having a kettlebell in the gym or even laying around your house, there's so many things kids can do with kettlebells that are safe and will start getting them lifting heavier things.
I could not agree more. Yeah. Muscles, you use them or you lose them.
Yeah.
So if you want your child to build more muscle, you got to make sure that they're being fed enough, because muscle growth is an anabolic, requires an anabolic environment for growth. So you need to be eating enough, and then you need to apply external stress to those muscles. And we do that through exercise. Even start body weight and then go from there. There's great stuff on YouTube videos. You know, you could probably hire a trainer for just a little while to learn some of the basics.
I've had people hire me. I know you have too, who just want you to watch their form.
Yep.
Give them some ideas. Like I started this thing where I would go to people's home gyms and work out with them for a month, teach them form, teach them how to use their equipment, and then write them plans that they can build on.
Yeah.
So you can hire someone
to do that for you. And it doesn't have to be this monthly expense for the rest of your life. Like, you just have to
just
have
to get
the
you started, get the basics,
and to start somewhere.
Yeah.
I would add too, you got to consider your genetics. That does play a factor. So if your child is on the smaller end, well, look at mom and dad. What are your sizes like? And
if you're all 5'7", your kid's not going to be 6'2".
It may just be a genetic thing, like, you know, or if dad is 6'3", but mom's 5'5",
right?
You know, one or more of your children may not be as big as dad. Like there are things, and that's fine. Like your kid is who they are. Like they're beautiful and wonderful and perfect, and like embrace it, love it. You know, so genetics do play a factor. Like my husband and I were very like skinny children and teenagers. And so our kids are like that as well. And, you know, but I know what my children are eating. I know like I've always preached about the importance of fueling your body, and like my kids don't skip meals. My kids are good eaters. So they're like lean.
Sometimes
you know what I mean?
Like, could you skip a meal? Cause this budget is really getting out of control.
Oh my gosh. I am feeding 4 adults. It's wild.
I think genetics is important too. Like if I look at pictures of my husband and I, like neither of us were super lean. And
as children
as children. And so like,
your kids may not be as much so.
You know, they're probably not going to be super duper lean kids. Like they're healthy. Our kids are both very healthy kids right now.
And that's far more important.
Right. But like your kids, were they really thin? I mean,
they were big babies.
Okay.
My children were, I mean, my son was 9'9"
and leaned up, but they kind of look like you guys, how you guys were built.
No, they do. They are more lean. Like, so that's their genetics. Both their father and I have a little more of an athletic build. We're both on the taller end. So like, it's not surprising that my children are likewise.
So I think one of the questions we're going to get is people are gonna be like, well, how do I know if my kids are healthy? So I want to say that, like, if your kid is a little on the heavier side, but you also as a child were on the heavier side, it doesn't mean there's something wrong with your kid. If your kid's on the leaner side and you guys were all on the leaner side, it doesn't mean that they're underweight. So I think, just to clarify that, like, I think genetics is a really good thing to play, because I can look at my daughter and be like, she's built just like I was when I was little. And like, she's, you know, strong and healthy and active, and you know, no issues.
She eats appropriate amounts for her and for her activity levels. She's eating well-balanced meals. She sleeps well, doesn't complain of being like tired all the time. Those are the bigger indicators, and
they're
things,
super active and strong, and you know,
to focus on.
If you notice that your kids are tired Not sleeping well, I think, is a big one. If your kids are having trouble sleeping, that's a big indicator that they need to work on their nutrition or just move their body more to get energy out. Or like you're working out and they can't lift your stuff, or they can't help carry in groceries because it's too heavy. Or, you know, if you start seeing those kinds of things, then I would say definitely start to look at what can you do to help support them so that you can get them stronger, fitter, healthier.
Absolutely. And constantly talk to them about the need of regular and frequent fueling sessions for your body.
And don't talk about their weight.
Right.
Don't talk about their weight.
That
would be my biggest advice. You need to come at it from a healthy perspective.
Yes.
Like,
be as healthy as you can be, as strong as you can be, reach your potential, your growth potential, because everybody's is going to look different.
Right.
And you don't need to worry about what little Jimmy's doing down the road. He has different DNA, different food environments. Focus on your child's health, your child's growth potential, their strength, their well-being. Maximize that.
Yeah, I would say the best thing you can do is don't put them on a scale. Don't be like, oh, let's see, what you're doing. Don't try to
if they're severely underweight, then it would be beneficial. I think,
but you can tell if they're going to start gaining weight without a scale.
Is, severely underweight, then I think there is benefit to tracking to make sure, like, are they actually even gaining any weight? Because there are instances where, that's the case.
Yeah.
And you need to see that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To make sure, like, okay, is this working? Are they, because they are growing and developing. So your child should be getting taller till they reach their height potential, which for young ladies is about a year after they start menstruating. For young men, it's going to be as like a young adult, right? So if your kid's 12, they are still growing.
Right. They're still growing.
So if there's no growth, that is where it's really important to look at some of
they're
those
going through puberty and they're not
biometrics of like weight and height, and then like what is their food intake like? Yeah. And then you got to realize, like, people are like, oh, I don't want them like overeating or whatever. They're growing, and if they're active, that's most likely not going to be a problem, especially if the bulk of their food intake is like whole foods.
Yeah.
Now, if you're constantly doing Dunkin' Donuts and Chick-fil-A and
filling them up on carbs
Domino's and whatever else, like those are very high calorie, low nutrient quality foods, then that could be problematic. But I think our listeners probably know that. Like, if you're going to
listen to more than just this episode,
you know the difference.
If they're listening to us, they're not surprised by this episode at all.
Yeah. So that's my thoughts.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Good luck.
And on that note, this episode officially wraps up season 1.
We finished season 1.
Woo-hoo, go us.
That's like
a whole
40,
season.
40 episodes.
Is it
something
that many? It's a lot.
About that.
Yeah. So season 1 of the Nutrition Revolution podcast. You can use this little like summer break that we're taking to get caught up on all of.
So what happens when you have kids? You take a summer break with your kids,
and travel, and all that. But big thank you to our listeners for supporting us and sharing our content and all your feedback and your questions. We're definitely still taking questions all through the summer as we gear up and like plan for content and episodes for the season 2.
I would say our listeners' job is to consume everything we have out there, and then come up with questions that they want us to answer for season 2.
Which will air fall 2025.
Yeah.
Yeah, so stay tuned. Thank you all so much for a fabulous first season.
It was fun.
Thanks for spending your time with us. If you found this podcast helpful, we would love for you to share it with your friends and family. And don't forget to subscribe on your podcast platform. If you have nutrition or fitness questions you want answered on future episodes, we would love to hear from you. You can submit these questions to our email, thenutritionrevolutionpodcast@gmail.com, and follow us on Instagram @thenutritionrevolutionpodcast.